Hey guys, Christina here, and today I have a look for you at what we've been reading in our homeschool and in our lives for the month of January 2020. You can hear a noise. I have a child working on a dotted project right beside me, and that's what that noise is. If you're new here, we have 5 children between the ages of 3 and 12. I'm just going to go through what we did all together as well as the books they read independently. So starting with our read-alouds. We did quite a few read-alouds this month. So this one here, Jade Dragons by Florence Whiteman Rowland. I'll show you the inside. Has a few little drawings. This is part of the Good and the Beautiful library. And this book went along with our Story of the World Volume 3 that we're doing. And this book was really good. I really liked it, and the kids did too. It was very simple. Some parts didn't have a whole lot of detail or explanation, but it had a good story to it, and it kind of gave a really good look at what life living on a boat in China was like. So I highly recommend this book. It was definitely a good one, and it's a pretty quick read as well. Then we moved on to The Sign of the Beaver by Elizabeth George Spear, which we had read her other book, The Witch of Blackbird Pond. We listened to it and really enjoyed it. This book, however, though, we weren't big fans of. Earlier in the year, or I guess last year, we read His Indian Brother, and it's almost an identical story, but His Indian Brother is so much better. It has a lot more detail. It has, I think, just a better story, better character development. I can see like this might work for a younger child and His Indian Brother maybe a little older one, but it definitely wasn't a favorite of ours, so I don't know if we'd read this one again. Then we moved on to this one, The American Twins of the Revolution by Lucy Fitch Perkins. There's a few little drawings in here too. This one had mixed reviews. It definitely gave time, like information about the time and kind of what was going on politically and stuff. But it was really hard to read. Some of the language they used to portray, I guess, the slaves that they had was really hard to read, and I didn't particularly enjoy it. I felt like the story was missing some things, so it says September of 1777, so they have to take some money to help George Washington and his troops, and without the British catching them, basically. I don't know. It says ages 8 to adult. I don't know. Let me know if you read this one, what you thought of it. Kind of mixed reviews on that one. And then this one here, Carry On Mr. Bowditch by Jean Lee Latham. We are about halfway through this one, and so far we're really enjoying it. So I'll share more next month when we're done, but I'm really liking this one so far. So then our audiobook. So we listened to Beyond the Bright Sea by Lauren Wolk, W-O-L-K. And it was a really, really good listen. It was long, and we kind of kept saying, wow, there's still like 5 hours left. There's still 3 hours left. But the story was just really good. Everyone enjoyed it. Don't want to say too much because you kind of have to figure some of it out. But it takes place in around 1924, I want to say, on the Elizabethan Islands off the coast of the US. And this girl she was basically washed up on the beach in like a skiff, and a man finds her and raises her, and she's trying to figure out who she is and where she comes from, and just so much about people and life and about the time as well, and about what life was like at that time. It was just a really good story. I highly recommend it. We're going to check out some other books by the same author because I know she's written at least one other, and it just seems really good. So that's a book that both my husband and I, but our kids enjoyed as well. So moving on to my 12-year-old. So he read Jack and Jill by Louisa May Alcott, and he gave it 3 out of 5 stars. He said it was okay. It was a little simple, but he read that one. Then he read this one here, The Three Gold Doubloons by Edith Thatcher Hurd. And this is part of the Good and the Beautiful library as well. I'll show you the inside. And this is all kind of around the same time. He read this in conjunction with our Story of the World. He gave it 4 out of 5 stars. He quite liked it. during, yeah, the whole same time period. So that was that book. Then he read The Secret of Zuni, and I don't know that book, so I'll put a picture. He gave it 5 stars. He really enjoyed it. This is the kind of book he likes, so he enjoyed it quite a bit. And then I actually watched the movie Murder on the Orient Express, and I thought it was something that my son would probably really enjoy. And so he picked up the book by Agatha Christie, and he read it, and he gave it 5 stars. He really enjoyed it, and he started to read another Agatha Christie book. Just that kind of intrigue, murder, yes, but more the intrigue and solving and putting things together and clues. He really enjoyed that, which I think is pretty cool. So he's reading another one of those. And then he read things like Archie comics. All the kids read Archie comics. And this book here, Tolliver's Secret. All of the boys as well. That's what I mean by kids. They read this book as well. And they all kind of had a different reaction to it. So my 12-year-old gave it 4 out of 5 stars. My 10-year-old gave it 3 out of 5, and my 9-year-old gave it 2.5 out of 5. So 3 different personalities, 3 different experiences with it. But again, that same time, American and British conflict. And then I also had all 3 of my older boys read You Wouldn't Want to Be a Pirate Prisoner, as well as You Wouldn't Want to Be at the Boston Tea Party. And they also read What is Matter Made Of, that went along with our science unit that we're doing. We're doing chemistry right now. And I think that's everything. All my boys read lots of different comics. They read Pokemon. So they read a lot of those kind of books as well. So moving on to my 10-year-old, he read Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim by Robert C. O'Brien. O'Brien? O'Brien, I think that's how you say it. I remember this book as a child. I remember my grade 5 teacher, I think it was, reading this to us and really enjoying it. And he gave it 4.5 out of 5, so he quite liked it. So he read that one. He also read a Paul Revere book. I had taken a few out and he picked it up and read it. I'll try and find a picture so you can see which one. And then moving on to my 9-year-old, he read the first book in the Hardy Boys series. I've been trying to get all my boys to read these books for years. He's looking at me. Yeah, he finally read it and he enjoyed it. He liked it. He gave it 4 out of 5, and he's gonna get some other ones now as well. And then again, the comics, the Pokemon, and like that Tolliver's Secret, he read those books too. My 6-year-old daughter continues to read like early readers, tons. Like we'll go to the library and she'll take 4 or 5 out, and a couple days later we'll go back and she'll take more out. So again, just a whole bunch of like early readers. She likes princess and cartoons and a whole bunch of books like that. So then that brings it to me. So I finished reading the book I had mentioned last time, which is The Polygamous Daughter by Anna LeBaron. It was really, really fascinating. So part of the reason I wanted to read this book was because Anna LeBaron's father, it recently came up in the news again because there had been a accidental shooting, I guess, in Mexico, and it was families that were remnants of the LeBaron group or cult or church, whatever you want to call it, who had been killed by mistake. And it was just really interesting then reading this book and reading the history of this family, the moving around between the US and Mexico, the crimes, really interesting, very, very sad, like heartbreakingly sad, especially for this person, and her childhood was just, it was no childhood. I mean, it was no childhood, but just so fascinating on kind of the inner workings of this, what some call church, some call cult, and particularly the family relationships. So I highly recommend it if you kind of find that interesting and people's life stories interesting. It was a really good read, difficult read. There were times that were quite emotional to read though. And then I read this book here, The Upward Spiral, Using Neuroscience to Reverse the Course of Depression, One Small Change at a Time by Alex Korb. I'll show you the inside. So So I really enjoyed this book, and it's not just for anyone who is dealing with depression, but anyone who deals with anxiety, or really just in general, just having good mental health. Small things, habits, and changes you can make that are gonna make you have good, stable, or help to have good, stable mental health. So this is a book that I'm adding to the list for my kids to read sometime probably in their later high school years. It is quite technical, and it has, like, it mentions the neurotransmitters and exactly how they work and with which part of the brain. So you definitely want it to be an older child if you're gonna have your kids read this, but this is a book I'd recommend every single person to read. Just everyone knows someone who's suffering with some kind of depression or anxiety, or maybe feels down at times, and it just has such great practical advice. So highly recommend that book. And then I've been reading this book here, With Pipe, Paddle, and Song, A Story of the French-Canadian Voyagers circa 1750. You're getting quite loud there, kid. By Elizabeth Yates. So I heard about this book and I wanted to check it out because we do a Canadian rotation, and it sounded very much similar to this book we read last time we did Canada, The Broken Blade by William Durbin. And while I liked it, there were a few things in here I was kind of like, eh. So I was hoping this one might be a better read aloud for us next time we do a Canada unit. I'm not very far in, and it's long. It's much more detailed than the other book. So we'll see. I'll let you know next month if I finish it and kind of what I thought about it. But that's what our family has been reading. Yeah, so let me know if you read any of these books, what you thought of them, and what you're reading right now, because I love getting suggestions both for me and for the kids, like this loud kid over here. So leave them in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I hope this finds you having a great day. Take care.